What the hell are you doing? Gregory Langston's voice tore through the summer air, sharp and furious. He dropped his briefcase at the edge of the patio and bolted toward the pool, heart hammering in his chest. The sun was still high, casting sharp reflections across the turquoise surface, but all he saw was his 6-year-old daughter, Isabel, trembling and soaked to the bone. Sitting at the pool's edge and beside her, the young housemaid, Maya Williams, drenched and gasping, her lips tinged faintly blue. Gregory didn't glance at Maya. His eyes locked on his daughter. "Sweetheart, are you all right? Are you hurt?" He crouched, inspecting Isabel's tiny limbs, checking for bruises, cuts, signs of trauma. "I'm okay, Daddy," she choked out between coughs, shivering. "I fell. Miss Maya. She jumped in. She saved me." He didn't hear the last part, not really. Or maybe he chose not to. From behind him, a hoarse voice spoke, weak from strain. "She slipped near the deep end. There was no time to call for help. I had to." "Don't talk," Gregory snapped, turning his fury toward Maya for the first time. "You were supposed to be watching her. How could you let her get that close to the pool?" Maya's teeth chattered slightly, her wet uniform clinging tightly to her frame. At 29, she had only been working in the Langston estate for 4 months. This was supposed to be a temporary job, a way to pay off her student loans after dropping out of nursing school to care for her ailing mother. But now, she stood before one of the most powerful men in Napa Valley, dripping and disoriented, being reprimanded like a criminal. "I didn't let her. She was just playing with her doll, and she leaned in too far. I saw her go under. I jumped in, sir. She was sinking fast." "You should have yelled for help," he barked. "You don't just throw yourself in like a lunatic. What if you'd both drowned?" Maya paused, stunned. She couldn't swim. Neither could I, really. But I couldn't let her die. You couldn't swim, and you jumped in anyway?" Gregory's voice rose with disbelief and disgust. "Are you out of your damn mind?" Isabel reached out, tugging her father's sleeve. "Daddy, please don't yell at her. She saved me." Gregory pulled the girl into his arms protectively. "Go inside, sweetheart. Get warm. I'll be right in." "But now, Isabel." The girl looked back at Maya one last time before slipping through the sliding glass doors, water squishing softly beneath her feet. Gregory turned again to Maya, now standing unsteadily, visibly struggling to breathe evenly. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She coughed, hard, doubling over slightly. "You should have thought this through," Gregory said coldly. "You're lucky nothing worse happened." Maya looked up, lips trembling not from fear, but from cold and something deeper, disbelief. "Mr. Langston, I pulled your daughter from the bottom of that pool. I nearly—" She stopped herself. There was no point. His eyes were already glassy with disapproval, not gratitude. "I'm not interested in excuses," he said, brushing past her. "Change into something dry and stay out of sight until further notice." She flinched, as if the words had slapped her. "Understood?" he added without looking back. "Yes, sir," she murmured, voice flat. As he disappeared into the house, Maya stood alone, water still dripping from her hair. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to suppress a shiver that wasn't just from the cold. The pool glistened behind her, placid now, as if it hadn't nearly claimed 2 lives. She staggered toward the servants' quarters, each step heavier than the last. That night, the Langston house was quiet. Isabel had fallen asleep early, bundled in flannel pajamas with a space heater humming beside her bed. Gregory sat in his office, sipping scotch, the headlines of his portfolio glowing across his screen. But his mind wasn't on the market. He replayed it all: her soaked uniform, her hand on Isabel's back, the coughing, the trembling lips, and still, something in him twisted with annoyance rather than guilt. She was reckless, foolish. And yet, damn it, he muttered, finishing his drink in a single gulp. Elsewhere, Maya sat alone on the edge of her twin bed, her fingers curled around a worn photo tucked beneath her pillow. Her mother, younger, smiling by a riverbank. Maya whispered, "You always said doing the right thing didn't always feel good." Her throat ached. She hadn't eaten. She didn't care. From outside, the wind stirred the leaves. The pool was dark again. No one thanked her. No one saw the moment she couldn't breathe either. No one noticed the girl who jumped, knowing she might not come back up. Not even him. The morning after the pool incident arrived, cloaked in an eerie calm. The Langston estate, normally a quiet symphony of buzzing espresso machines, smooth jazz echoing from the study, and the rhythmic swish of sprinklers across acres of manicured lawn, felt frozen. The silence had weight to it. Maya Williams moved like a ghost through the kitchen. Her steps were careful, calculated. Her wet uniform from yesterday had been washed and hung by the window, but it still dripped faintly. She wore a plain gray shirt and black slacks, borrowed from an old supply closet. The bruises along her ribs were blooming now, hidden under layers of fabric, each one a secret reminder that she had almost drowned. And no one had asked if she was okay. She stirred the oatmeal quietly, glancing once toward the hallway. The breakfast tray for Isabel sat untouched beside her. 2 slices of toast, cut diagonally, a boiled egg, and a small cup of orange juice, no pulp, just how the girl liked it. Maya had memorized those preferences in the first week. Behind her, a deep voice cleared his throat. "You don't need to prepare her meals. Rosa can handle that." Maya turned slowly. Gregory stood in the doorway, dressed impeccably in a navy blue suit. No briefcase, but his phone buzzed steadily in his hand. He hadn't shaved. The stubble across his jaw made him look rougher, less composed. "I know her routine," Maya replied softly. "I didn't want her morning to feel different." Gregory's gaze lingered on her a moment too long. "She'll be fine," kids bounced back. Maya nodded. "Yes, sir." He crossed the kitchen, opened the fridge, poured himself black coffee from the carafe she'd brewed an hour ago. It was lukewarm, but he didn't complain. "I checked the pool cams last night," he said suddenly, his tone cool. "You jumped in without even taking your shoes off." Maya set the spoon down. "There was no time. You risked your life." "I know. You said you couldn't swim." "I didn't say I couldn't," Maya answered, voice calm. "I said I wasn't a strong swimmer. There's a difference." Gregory raised an eyebrow. "That's not what you said yesterday." "I was scared, Mr. Langston," she said, turning to face him fully. "I had just pulled your daughter from the deep end. My heart was in my throat. My lungs were half full of water. Maybe I didn't say everything perfectly." For a moment, silence again. He looked at her, really looked this time. The purple shadows under her eyes, the raw skin at her knuckles, the way she stood, slightly favoring one leg. But then, as if catching himself, he shifted his gaze toward the sink. "You still should have yelled," he muttered. "That's what people do in emergencies. I was the only one who saw her go under. By the time anyone heard me scream, it would have been too late." She paused. "I didn't act recklessly. I acted fast." Gregory stared at his coffee. "You could have drowned too." Maya stepped forward just slightly. "Yes, but I didn't, and neither did your daughter." The words hung in the air. Not angry, not dramatic, just true. Isabel's soft footsteps interrupted the standoff. She entered the kitchen, rubbing her eyes, dragging her stuffed penguin by the flipper. "Morning, Daddy." "Morning, Maya." "Good morning, sweetheart," Maya said gently, crouching to Isabel's level. "I made your favorite." The little girl beamed. "Thank you." Then she looked at her father. "Can Maya eat with me?" Gregory hesitated. "I think Maya has a lot to do today." "I already finished my chores," Maya interjected, her tone respectful. "If it's all right, I'd like to sit with her." He didn't answer at first, but Isabel was already pulling Maya toward the table. They sat across from each other like mother and daughter. Gregory remained standing, watching the scene with a strange tightness in his chest. "Do you still not feel good, Maya?" Isabel asked between bites of toast. "I feel a little sore," Maya admitted, "but better than last night." "You looked like a superhero." Maya smiled. "Not quite. Just someone who didn't want to see a good person get hurt." "Give Maya a like. And where are you watching this video from?" "Leave a comment below, who knows? Someone nearby might be watching it too." Gregory's eyes flicked to the clock. "I have to go into town." Isabel looked up. "You're not staying home today?" "I've got meetings, sweetheart." She looked disappointed but didn't argue. He kissed the top of her head and left without another glance at Maya. When the door closed, the little girl whispered, "He was really mad yesterday." He was scared," Maya said gently. "Sometimes fear wears the face of anger. Does that mean he wasn't really mad at you?" Maya gave a small smile. "I think he was mad at the whole situation." Not just me. Isabel nodded, then leaned closer. I'm glad you were there. Maya blinked hard. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. After breakfast, as Isabel skipped off to the den, Maya returned to the kitchen to wash dishes. The sun warmed the tiles beneath her bare feet, and for the first time since yesterday, she allowed herself to exhale. But in the hallway, beyond her sight, Gregory paused outside the kitchen doorway, listening. He didn't step in. He didn't speak. He just stood there for a full minute before turning away. The early afternoon sun filtered softly through the large bay windows of the Langston living room. Light pooled over the hardwood floors, bouncing off the grand piano in the corner that no one had touched since Gregory's wife passed 3 years ago. The house was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that made every footstep sound accusatory. Gregory stood in his study, arms folded, staring at the security footage on his computer screen. The camera overlooking the backyard had captured everything, the glint of sunlight, Isabel teetering near the pool's edge, the sudden slip, the flailing limbs, then Maya, dropping the dish towel in her hands, running, not even stopping to kick off her shoes, plunging headfirst into the water. He watched it again, and again. She never hesitated, not for 1 second. He remembered that moment differently. He remembered shouting, blame, rage. But the footage didn't lie. His daughter had nearly drowned, and Maya had saved her without concern for her own safety. He paused the footage just as Maya resurfaced, dragging Isabel to the edge, her face twisted in effort and fear. He noticed something now he hadn't before. Maya had slipped once, briefly going under with the child, before pushing Isabel up and finding her footing again. He hadn't seen that. Hadn't asked. Hadn't cared. A knock pulled him from the screen. Yes? He called. Javier, the head groundskeeper, peeked in. Sir, the gardener from the south side said he saw a few news vans parked on the main road. Seems someone tipped them off. Gregory frowned. News vans? Yes, sir. Might be about what happened yesterday. Gregory rubbed his temple. Keep them away from the property. No comment. Understood? Yes, sir. Javier left swiftly, leaving the door half ajar. Gregory sat down, fingers steepled beneath his chin. This wasn't just a personal embarrassment anymore, it was beginning to ripple outward. And he still hadn't dealt with the core of it, Maya. He checked the time. Isabel would be starting her reading hour soon. Maya often sat with her in the den, especially on rainy days. Today wasn't rainy, but Isabel had insisted. He'd heard her. I want Maya to read the one with the stars and the little bear. Gregory stood and made his way toward the den. Inside, Isabel was curled on the plush rug, book in hand, while Maya sat beside her on a low ottoman, her legs tucked beneath her. The girl read aloud, stumbling now and then on the longer words, but Maya corrected her gently, patiently, never making her feel embarrassed. And the little bear said, But how will I know if you're still watching me when I'm asleep? Maya smiled. And what did the mama bear say? Isabel squinted at the words. She said, Because the stars will still be shining, and that's me looking down at you. Gregory remained in the hallway, listening. That line hit him harder than he expected. He hadn't read that book to Isabel, hadn't read much of anything to her in months. He cleared his throat and stepped inside. Maya stood quickly, smoothing her pants. Mr. Langston, please, sit, he gestured vaguely. I just wanted to speak. Isabel looked up. Can Maya finish the chapter first? Gregory gave a small smile. Go ahead. They resumed reading, and he sat in the armchair nearby, feeling strangely like a guest in his own home. When the final page turned, and Isabel wandered off to find her markers, Gregory leaned forward. Maya, he began, voice low, I need to apologize. She turned to him slowly, uncertain. I was wrong. Yesterday. The way I reacted. The things I said. I watched the footage this morning. You didn't hesitate. You didn't think about yourself. And... He stopped, swallowing hard. I should have thanked you, and I didn't. Maya was quiet for a moment. I wasn't looking for thanks. I know, he said, but you deserved it. She nodded, not out of humility but restraint. The wounds were too fresh for quick healing. I'm aware of how this house works, she said quietly. What people think of me, of my place here. I'm the help. That's how it's always been. Gregory stiffened. You're not. I know what I am, she interrupted, but not angrily. It's fine. I don't need anyone to pretend. But Mr. Langston, when I pulled her out, and you looked at me like I was the problem, like I'd done something wrong, I realized something. What's that? I realized that even when we do everything right, some people will still see us as a threat, or a mistake. The words landed like a stone in his chest. Gregory looked at her, really looked past the plain clothes, past the role, past his own discomfort. He saw a young woman who had risked her life for his child, and he'd treated her like an inconvenience. I can't change how I reacted yesterday, he said softly, but I can try to do better moving forward. She nodded again, but more gently this time. Thank you, she said. That's more than most would say. They both looked toward Isabel, now humming to herself and coloring the bear from the book. She adores you, Gregory said. She's always talked about you, but I didn't really listen. I adore her too, Maya said simply. She reminds me of who I used to be, before the world started closing doors. Gregory stood. You're welcome to keep reading with her. Anytime. Maya's eyes met his. That means more than you know. As he left the room, Gregory realized something unfamiliar but undeniable had shifted. Not just in Maya, in himself. For the first time in a long time, he wondered what it meant to be truly seen and what it meant to start seeing others, not just as part of the scenery and his success, but as people who might save his life in ways he never expected. Dinner that evening was quieter than usual, and not just because the house had always leaned toward a polished formality. Something about the air felt thick, like the walls themselves had absorbed the tension of the past 2 days, and were now silently watching, waiting. Gregory Langston sat at the head of the dining table, a place he had occupied for over a decade without question. The table itself, made of hand-carved walnut, could seat 12, though only 2 plates were set tonight, his and Isabel's. A vase of white hydrangeas sat untouched in the center, their petals still fresh from yesterday's delivery. The girl sat to his right, swinging her feet beneath the chair, eyes scanning the doorway every few minutes. Is Maya eating with us? She finally asked, pushing a green bean across her plate with the back of her fork. Gregory cleared his throat. She's taking her dinner in the staff kitchen tonight. Isabel frowned. Why? He hesitated. She's had a long day. I thought she might want some quiet. Isabel's eyes didn't move from her plate. You didn't ask her. Gregory didn't reply. Outside, the sun dipped behind the vineyard hills, casting gold across the windows. A lone cicada buzzed in the garden, breaking the silence. Isabel looked up again. You're still mad at her. I'm not mad, Gregory said. I just thought she might prefer to rest. That's not what I asked. Gregory leaned back in his chair, sighing. His daughter had her mother's eyes and, increasingly, her tendency to press for truth, no matter how uncomfortable it made others. I was mad, he admitted, at first, but not anymore. Isabel looked relieved but still quietly dissatisfied. Meanwhile, in the staff kitchen down the hallway, Maya sat alone with a plate of roasted chicken and rice, untouched. She stared at the small wall clock, listening to the muffled clinking of silverware from the main dining room. She could hear Isabel's voice faintly, rising now and then in question, fading under Gregory's deeper responses. She should eat. She knew that, but her stomach twisted at the thought. The events of the last 24 hours had settled like a weight in her gut. She didn't know what today had meant. Yes, Gregory had apologized, and yes, Isabel still wanted her around, but something had shifted in the atmosphere of the house. She was no longer invisible, and being seen came with its own price. A soft knock broke her thoughts. She looked up to see Rosa, the longtime head cook, peeking in with a small smile. Carita, the little one's asking for you, Rosa said in a low voice. She won't touch her dessert until you come. Maya hesitated. Is Mr. Langston okay with that? Rosa shrugged. He didn't say no. That was enough. When Maya stepped into the dining room, Isabel's face lit up. You came. Gregory, mid-sip of wine, set his glass down. Maya stood at the threshold for a moment, uncertain whether to approach or retreat. Her damp curls were now tied back in a low bun, and she'd changed into a soft sweater and jeans less uniform, more human. May I? She asked, nodding toward the open seat near Isabel. Gregory gestured with a tired hand. Please. Maya sat. The clink of china and glass resumed, though more subdued. Isabel beamed. We saved chocolate mousse. Maya smiled back. My favorite. Gregory watched the exchange, then finally said, "Maya, if you're up for it, I'd like to hear what really happened yesterday, from your point of view." Maya blinked, surprised. "Now?" He nodded. "If it's not too much." She took a breath. "I was cleaning the patio windows. Isabel was nearby, playing with that little doll she loves, Olivia. I told her to stay a few steps back. I turned away just long enough to wipe the last pain. That's when I heard the splash." Gregory's hands tightened around his fork. "I looked and saw her going under. Her arms were flailing, but there was no sound, just bubbles. I didn't think. I just ran." She paused, eyes darkening with memory. "She was heavy, sir. I didn't know if I'd get us both out, but I kept thinking, if I die here, let it be because I tried." Gregory leaned back, silent. "I panicked," she admitted, voice softening, "but only after. When you yelled at me, I felt like I'd done something shameful." Isabel reached across the table and took Maya's hand. Gregory's voice was quieter now. "I saw the footage. You didn't do anything wrong." Maya didn't respond. She didn't need to. They ate the mousse in shared silence, the air softer now. After dinner, Isabel skipped off to feed her goldfish, leaving the two adults alone at the table. Gregory looked at Maya. "You were right, about how I see things. People." Maya shook her head. "I wasn't trying to judge you." But you weren't wrong," he said. "I'm used to keeping distance. Not letting anyone in too close. It's safer. It's lonelier too." He nodded. She stood. "Thank you for letting me sit here tonight. You didn't need permission," he said, "but thank you for accepting it." Their eyes met for a brief moment, not as employer and employee, but as two people who had just survived something neither could fully name. When Maya left the room, Gregory remained at the table, staring into the space she'd vacated. For the first time in years, the silence no longer felt like armor. It felt like the beginning of something real. The morning sun hadn't yet crested the eastern hills when Maya stepped out onto the veranda, arms wrapped in a light shawl, a steaming mug of coffee cradled between her palms. The vineyard stretched below her like waves frozen in mid-motion, dew still clinging to the leaves. The air was sharp with the scent of earth and oak, crisp in the way only early morning in Napa could be. She didn't expect anyone else to be awake. The house was still. The staff had yet to begin their day, but as she turned to head back inside, she saw him. Gregory Langston stood near the edge of the lower slope, jacket slung over his shoulder, hands tucked into his pockets. He was staring out at the vines, his figure stoic and solitary against the vastness of the estate. Maya hesitated, then stepped down the path slowly. He didn't hear her approach at first. When he did, he turned, a faint crease in his brow. "You're up early," he said. "Couldn't sleep," Maya replied. "You?" "Same." She joined him in silence. They stood side by side, the fog lifting slowly around them. "I used to walk these rows with my wife," Gregory said after a long pause. "Back when we first bought the property, before Isabel was born." Maya nodded but didn't speak. His voice was softer now, almost unfamiliar. She loved the mornings, said the world looked cleaner before everyone woke up to ruin it. There was a trace of fondness in his tone, but also sorrow. "I'm sorry," Maya said gently, "for your loss." Gregory nodded. "Thanks. It's been 3 years, but some days feel like yesterday." Another silence passed between them, not heavy this time, but shared. "I think that's part of why I was so angry," he continued. "Seeing Isabel in danger like that, it ripped something open. I thought I was prepared, that I could keep her safe by controlling everything, but I can't. No one can." Maya looked down at her mug. "Being afraid doesn't make you a bad father, but what you do after matters more." He turned toward her, brows slightly raised, impressed by the clarity of her words. She didn't flinch. "You're trying. That counts." Gregory offered a small, genuine smile, his first real one in days. Just then, his phone buzzed in his jacket pocket. He checked the screen, his smile fading. "What is it?" Maya asked, noting the change. "Press," he muttered. "The pool incident got out." Maya froze. "They know?" He nodded. "Somebody leaked it. Now they're spinning stories about a heroic housemaid saving a billionaire's daughter. A few even questioned why you weren't credited in any official statement." Maya's grip on the mug tightened. "I didn't say anything to anyone." Um, I know you didn't. He looked at her firmly. But this is going to change things. Maya's chest tightened. You mean I'll need to leave? Gregory blinked. What? Number? That's not what I meant. People will start digging. Into me, my past, why a college dropout is working here, why I left nursing school. They'll twist things. Gregory exhaled sharply. Then let them. She looked at him, surprised. I'll handle it, he continued. No one's digging up your life without going through me first. Her eyes searched his. Why would you do that? Because I owe you, he said. And because Isabel deserves to keep the person who made her feel safe. Emotion welled in Maya's throat, but she held it down. Thank you, she whispered. He gave a short nod and turned his eyes back to the hills. Later that day, the estate was busier than usual. Gregory's PR team arrived to consult, discreetly setting up in the East Wing. The phone rang non-stop. Maya kept to her usual duties, but tension buzzed in the air. In the hallway near the grand staircase, Maya overheard two staffers whispering. Did you hear? They're calling her a hero. The maid. They always do this. Make it a story. Bet she'll sell it for money. Maya stopped. She didn't react, didn't interrupt. She simply turned and walked the other way. By late afternoon, Gregory called her into the study. Papers were spread across his desk, clippings, emails, statements drafted but not yet sent. I want your input, he said as she entered. On what? He slid a draft press release across the table. This is what they want me to say. She read it silently. It was carefully worded, acknowledging a member of the household staff, who had responded swiftly, but her name wasn't in it. No name? She asked. They advised against it. To protect your privacy. Maya smirked. To protect your brand, you mean? Gregory leaned forward. Then tell me what you want. I'll back it. She considered for a moment. Don't use my name, but don't erase what happened either. Say that someone acted, not because of duty, but because a child's life mattered more than fear. Gregory stared at her, then nodded slowly. I can say that. And don't call me a hero, she added. I'm not. I was just there, at the right moment. Sometimes that's all a hero is, he said. They looked at each other, then not from across a class divide, not separated by wealth or title, but from across experience. In the following days, the headlines quieted. The press moved on, but inside the Langston estate, something had shifted permanently. Maya no longer ate in the staff kitchen. She no longer avoided the family wing, and Gregory no longer pretended not to notice her presence. They still didn't talk much about that day, but they didn't need to. The silence between them had changed. It wasn't avoidance anymore. It was respect. Rain hadn't touched Napa for weeks, but that evening, dark clouds hung low over the vineyards like a warning. Maya watched them from the upstairs landing window, arms crossed loosely over her chest, the scent of coming rain thick in the air. Downstairs, voices echoed faintly. Gregory was on a call, sharp and clipped, pacing near the study. Isabel had fallen asleep early after a day of back-to-back tutoring and board games. The girl had insisted Maya play Princess Kingdom with her, crowning Maya queen with a glittery tiara and a crooked smile. When the little one finally nodded off, curled against Maya's side with the book still open on her chest, Maya felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest, belonging. She made her way to the kitchen, where Rosa was finishing the evening cleanup. The older woman gave her a warm glance. Quiet night, Rosa said. Feels like the calm before something, Maya murmured, half to herself. Rosa wiped her hands and leaned closer. You've done something here, Maya. That man, he's different when you're around. Softer, maybe. Maya chuckled under her breath. I doubt he'd agree. Maybe not out loud, Rosa smiled. But I've worked here 12 years. I notice shifts. And child, you've caused one. Before Maya could reply, Gregory's voice called from the hall. Maya, can we speak? Rosa raised her brows and gave Maya a playful nudge before disappearing through the back door. Maya turned to find Gregory standing just inside the doorway, holding 2 glasses, one water, one red wine. I wasn't sure which you preferred, he said, so I brought both. Maya blinked. Is this a meeting or a peace offering? Maybe both. They stepped out onto the back terrace where the wind was rising, soft but urgent. The lights from inside cast long golden beams across the patio stones. I got another call today, Gregory began, from a local councilman. Wants to nominate the estate for a civic award. Maya sipped the water. What for? For being a symbol of community leadership. Apparently rescuing your own daughter and not covering it up earns you points. Maya gave a small smile. And how did you respond? I told them the real hero wasn't available for comment. A pause stretched between them. I've been thinking, he added, about your story. Why you're here. Why someone like you would leave nursing school and end up in my guest quarters. Maya stiffened slightly. You don't need to. I know I don't, he said gently. But I want to understand. If you're willing. She set her glass down, fingers tightening. My mom got sick, she began. Real sick. Early, onset Alzheimer's. I was halfway through my second year. I couldn't afford home care, and I didn't trust a facility. Ugh. Gregory nodded slowly. She raised me alone, worked 2 jobs, gave up everything. So I gave up a little something in return. School, dreams, they can wait. People can't. He said nothing at first. Then, quietly, She still with you? Maya looked away. Number? She passed 2 winters ago. I stayed in the city for a while, did part-time caregiving, tried to go back to school, but by then the debt was too high. Gregory's voice was low. I'm sorry. Don't be, she said, turning back to him. I don't regret it. I learned more in those 2 years than I ever did in class. He looked at her not with pity, but with a kind of admiration he hadn't shown before. I've been surrounded by people who've never sacrificed a single comfort, he said. And here you are, standing taller than any of them. Maya flushed but didn't look away. The wind picked up, brushing loose strands of her hair across her face. You know, she said softly, I never thought I'd feel anything like home again after she died. But lately, sometimes, this place surprises me. Gregory's eyes lingered on hers. That might be the best compliment this house has ever received. A rumble of thunder rolled far off in the distance. Maya glanced up. Storm's coming. Gregory nodded. Let's hope it clears the air. But just as they turned to go inside, Javier appeared at the far end of the terrace, his face tense. Mr. Langston, there's someone at the gate. Says he's from Channel 12. Gregory's jaw tightened. Not again. He says he's got to source something about the maid. And your late wife. Maya froze. Gregory's tone darkened. What about her? He wouldn't say more. Just that it's personal. Gregory turned sharply. Tell him to leave. Javier hesitated. He said if we don't respond, he'll run the story tomorrow. Claims someone from inside the estate has been leaking things for weeks. Gregory's shoulders stiffened. Let me guess, an anonymous source. Yes, sir. Gregory looked at Maya, who was pale but composed. Don't worry, I'll handle this. She nodded, though unease settled in her gut like lead. When Javier left, she looked at Gregory. You think someone here is feeding them lies? I don't know, but I'll find out. And if anyone's trying to drag you into this mess, they'll answer to me. She believed him. Still, that night, long after the house had gone quiet, Maya lay awake. The past was creeping closer, its claws ready to drag her back. And for the first time since saving Isabel, she felt the sting of old fear returning. Not from water or drowning, but from secrets. Secrets that refused to stay buried. The next morning broke cold and gray, the vineyard shrouded in mist that refused to lift. Maya stood in the kitchen earlier than usual, pouring coffee into a thermos and packing a small tray for Isabel warm banana pancakes, a handful of blueberries, and a note in the girl's favorite glitter pen. You're braver than yesterday. Love, M. She tucked the note between the napkins just as Rosa walked in, her expression unreadable. Maya, Rosa said cautiously, did you hear what the news ran this morning? Maya froze. What did they say? They didn't name you, but they mentioned the maid who grew close to the Langston family and made suggestions about Gregory's late wife, about tensions in the household. Maya set the thermos down hard. I thought he was handling it, she murmured. Rosa walked closer. It's not him I'd be worried about. People around here talk. They watch. They assume, especially when the help starts sitting at the family table. Maya looked up sharply, reading something unspoken in Rosa's eyes. You think someone inside is leaking this? Rosa hesitated. There's always someone who thinks a secret is worth more than a salary. Maya nodded slowly, her chest tightening. Thanks, Rosa. She left the kitchen with a calm face and a heart pounding like war drums. As she moved through the halls, she noticed the shift small, but noticeable. The way the new maid, Alicia, avoided eye contact. The way the gardener nodded at her a little too quickly. The subtle halt in conversation when she entered the laundry room. By midday, Isabel was back from tutoring and clung to Maya like a shadow. "Can you read the bear story again?" the girl asked. "Of course," Maya said, settling beside her on the couch. But the words didn't flow as easily this time. Her eyes kept darting to the window, her ears perked for distant footsteps. That's when Gregory stormed in. He didn't knock, didn't speak at first, just stood there, one hand clenched, the other holding a tablet with a news headline on the screen. Inside the Langston estate, rumors of romance and resentment. Maya stood slowly. Isabel looked between them, confused. "Maya," Gregory said, voice tight, "can I speak to you alone?" Isabel started to protest, but Maya gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "It's okay, sweetie. I'll be right back." They stepped into the hallway, and Gregory shut the door behind them with more force than necessary. "I swear I had nothing to do with this," Maya said before he could speak. "I know," he replied quickly. "That's not why I'm upset." Maya blinked. "Then why?" "Because someone in this house is trying to destroy you, and by extension me, and I don't know who." Maya folded her arms. "What exactly are they suggesting?" "That you were close with my wife, that you somehow caused tension, that she wanted you fired before the accident." Maya's face went pale. "That's a lie." "I know it is," Gregory said firmly. "Marissa didn't even know your name. You started here 6 months after she passed." Maya nodded, but the hurt was real. "Still, these things don't go away once they're said." Gregory's expression darkened. "Which is why we need to find out who's saying them." "Any guesses?" He hesitated. "Alicia, or maybe someone from the PR team, but I don't want to accuse anyone without proof." Maya exhaled. "I don't want this to affect Isabel. She's already been through so much." Gregory nodded. "Which is why I think we should get ahead of this. You and I, together, go public, not in some flashy interview. Just a joint statement. Tell the truth." She tilted her head. "You trust me enough for that?" His eyes didn't flinch. "I trust you with my daughter's life. I think that's more than enough." That evening, they drafted the statement together. Simple, honest. Maya would remain unnamed, but acknowledged as an essential part of Isabel's life. There would be no embellishment, no denial of class lines, but there would be gratitude, clarity, truth. As they worked, Gregory noticed how easily the conversation flowed between them now. No tension, no formality, just two people trying to protect what mattered. When the draft was finished, Maya looked at him. "You didn't have to include that line about honor beyond position." "I did," he said, "because it's true." She gave a small smile. "You're not who I expected you to be." "Neither are you," he replied. They printed the statement, and Gregory arranged for it to be sent to key outlets first thing in the morning. That night, Maya couldn't sleep again, but not from fear. This time it was something else. She went to check on Isabel. The girl was asleep, one arm flung over her penguin toy, the other resting on the note Maya had written that morning. Maya stood there in the doorway for a long time, watching the rise and fall of the child's breath. Behind her, she didn't hear Gregory approach. "She sleeps easier since you've been here," he said quietly. Maya turned. "She's stronger than she knows. She gets that from her mother," Gregory said. Then after a pause, "And maybe now, from you." Their eyes met no defenses this time, no wariness, just the quiet recognition of something new beginning. The storm hadn't passed, but they were learning how to stand in it. Together, the morning after the statement went public, the Langston estate woke to an odd calm. No reporters at the gates, no angry emails from investors, just the faint scent of jasmine in the breeze and the usual hum of sprinklers across the vineyard lawn. Maya walked into the kitchen to find Rosa already prepping lunch. The older woman looked up with a sly smile. "Made the papers, Carita," she said, sliding a folded copy of the Napa Valley Tribune across the counter. The front page read, "Truth over scandal. Langston statement silences rumors." Maya picked it up, her eyes scanning the column. Her name wasn't mentioned, as agreed, but the tone was respectful. Honest, balanced. It called her a member of the household staff, whose quick action and quiet devotion helped avert tragedy. and build a bridge where few expected one. It's kind, Maya said, folding it again. Almost too kind. You earned that kindness, Rosa replied. You didn't ask for attention, you just did what was right. Gregory entered then, dressed in a navy pullover and jeans. Casual, less armor. Morning, he said, pouring himself a coffee. Paper? Maya handed it over. He read it in silence, then nodded. They got it right. The air between them was lighter now, not without tension, but no longer thick with fear or second-guessing. Later that afternoon, Gregory invited Maya to walk the vineyard rows with him. It had become a quiet ritual, something unspoken but healing. I found something last night, he said as they walked, in Marissa's writing desk. Maya glanced at him. She kept journals, he continued. Not every day, just thoughts, fragments. One entry caught my eye. He handed her a folded page, worn at the corners. Maya hesitated, then took it. It read, in looping script, "This house feels too quiet these days." I see Isabel laughing with Rosa, giggling with the new girl. What was her name, Maya? She's young, careful, but warm. Reminds me of someone I used to be. Part of me aches watching them, not from jealousy, but from something else, a longing. Maybe I spent so long building this house, I forgot to make it a home. Maya blinked back sudden tears. She knew me? She saw you, even if you didn't know it. Maya folded the note carefully, returning it. Thank you for showing me. Gregory nodded. I thought you should know she didn't see you as invisible. They walked in silence for a while, the crunch of gravel beneath their steps the only sound. You said she used to walk these rows with you, Maya said softly, every Sunday morning. She'd insist we check every vine, even if the workers already had. Said it helped her breathe. Maya looked out at the rows, neat and green and humming with life. I understand that. When they returned to the house, Isabel was waiting on the front steps, a sketch pad in her lap. I drew something, she called out. For both of you. Gregory and Maya joined her as she flipped the pad around. It was a child's drawing, messy but heartfelt. 3 figures under a big sun, Isabel in the middle, Gregory on one side, Maya on the other, all holding hands. It's our family now, Isabel said simply. Maya felt her heart skip. Gregory's face softened as he crouched beside his daughter. That's beautiful, sweetheart, he said. I think Mommy would like it too, Isabel added, almost as an afterthought. Even if she's in the stars. Neither adult spoke for a moment. Then Gregory nodded. I think you're right. That evening, Maya stood on the back patio with a cup of mint tea, watching the sun dip low. Rosa joined her a moment later, holding a folded cloth. This was Marissa's, she said. Found it while doing linens. She used to wear it during harvest season. It was a pale yellow scarf, embroidered with delicate white flowers. I think it suits you more, Rosa said, placing it gently in Maya's hands. Maya traced the stitching. She really was everywhere, wasn't she? She built this place with more than walls, Rosa said. And now you're doing the same. That night, Maya placed the scarf in her drawer, beside a photo Isabel had drawn weeks ago, and a book of bedtime stories worn at the edges. Her things, her space. A quiet corner of a life that had once felt borrowed, now slowly becoming her own. The house no longer felt like someone else's world she tiptoed through. It was, piece by piece, becoming part of hers. It was just after midnight when Maya woke to a noise she couldn't quite place. Not the usual creaks of an old estate or the rustling of wind through the vineyard trees. This was closer. Intentional. A shuffle of footsteps down the east corridor, where the staff rarely ventured after hours. She sat up in bed, heart beating with quiet urgency. She'd learned long ago to trust her instincts. Still in her sweatpants and a light hoodie, she slipped out of her room, bare feet silent against the hardwood floor. The hallway was dim, only a few sconces flickering low. She heard it again, someone moving past Gregory's study. Not fast, but not careful either. Whoever it was, they weren't hiding. They were searching. Maya padded down the corridor, staying close to the wall. As she reached the study door, she caught a glimpse of movement through the crack. A shadow hunched over the desk. The figure rifled through papers, opened drawers. Maya pushed the door open just enough to see the intruder clearly. Alicia. The young maid was dressed in black, her long dark hair tied back, her fingers moving with urgency through Gregory's personal files. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She waited, watching. Alicia pulled out a small envelope, tucked it quickly into her coat pocket, and turned to leave. Maya stepped into the doorway. Looking for something? Alicia froze. Her face, for a second, betrayed pure panic. Then she forced a sneer. Could say the same to you, she snapped. This isn't your space, Alicia, Maya said, stepping forward. You shouldn't be here. I work here, just like you. Not at midnight. Not going through Mr. Langston's private things. Alicia narrowed her eyes. And you? What are you doing wandering the halls like you own the place? Maya's voice was calm. I heard something. I came to check. A tense silence hung between them. I suggest you put back whatever you took, Maya said, before this gets worse. Alicia hesitated. Then, with defiance burning in her gaze, she stepped closer. You think he's going to protect you? You think you're special because the little girl likes you? Because you got lucky saving someone? This has nothing to do with luck, Maya said, steady. This has to do with trust, something you just broke. Before Alicia could respond, Gregory appeared behind them. His voice was cold and unyielding. What's going on? Maya turned. She was in your study, going through your desk. Gregory's eyes snapped to Alicia. Is that true? Alicia's face paled, then hardened. I was looking for my paycheck stubs. I thought, stop, Gregory said, raising a hand. Just stop. Alicia said nothing. Gregory walked past her, opened the drawer she'd just closed, and immediately noticed the disarray. He turned back to her. What did you take? She didn't answer. I'm not asking again. Alicia's jaw clenched. An envelope. That's it. Give it to me. Reluctantly, Alicia pulled it from her coat and slammed it on the desk. Gregory picked it up, opened it, and frowned. Then he looked at her with quiet disbelief. You were going to sell this? She didn't answer. These are letters between me and my lawyer, about Isabel's trust fund, about protecting her inheritance. Why would you want these? Alicia's silence told him everything. You're fired, he said flatly. Now, tonight, Javier will escort you off the property. Alicia scoffed. Figures. Throw me out for doing half of what she's done. Gregory stepped closer, his tone firm. Maya has done nothing but protect this family. You, on the other hand, tried to sell our lives for a quick payday. She's not even family, Alicia hissed. She's earned more place here than you ever tried to. Alicia's eyes darted between them rage, defeat, and something else. Fear. She turned and stormed out of the study. Gregory let out a breath and looked at Maya. I'm sorry you had to see that. Maya shook her head. You didn't know. I should have. They stood in silence for a moment, the tension thick in the air. She wasn't just snooping, Maya finally said. She knew what to look for. Someone tipped her off. Gregory nodded grimly, which means someone else might still be in on it. Should we call the police? Not yet. First, we lock everything down. No one in or out without my approval. Maya looked up at him, concerned. This is bigger than just gossip, isn't it? He met her eyes. Much bigger. Later that night, Maya returned to her room but didn't sleep. The shadows had shifted again. What once felt like healing now felt like a fight for something deeper, protection, truth, and dignity. Downstairs, Gregory sat alone in his study, the letter Alicia tried to steal resting beside a half-drunk glass of scotch. He stared out into the darkness beyond the window. This wasn't over. Whoever was behind it wasn't finished. And neither was he. By the next morning, the air in the Langston estate had changed. The usually serene halls felt heavier, more alert. Staff moved quietly, eyes lowered, conversations hushed. Word about Alicia's sudden dismissal had traveled fast, though the details remained vague. Everyone understood something serious had happened. Maya sat in the breakfast nook with Isabel, pouring syrup onto the girl's waffles, forcing a smile she didn't quite feel. Across the table, Isabel picked at her food. She's not coming back, is she? The girl asked. Maya paused. No, sweetie. Alicia won't be working here anymore. Did she do something bad? Maya hesitated, then nodded gently. Sometimes people make choices that hurt others. And when that happens, they have to leave. Isabel frowned. But you'll still be here, right? Maya's smile softened. Yes. I'm not going anywhere. Gregory entered a few minutes later, dressed sharper than usual, a navy blazer over a crisp white shirt. He looked like a man on a mission. He placed his hand gently on Isabel's shoulder. "Morning, Peanut," he said. "You doing okay?" She nodded, and he turned to Maya. "Can I borrow you after breakfast? Something we need to do." Maya followed him to the upper floor study once Isabel was settled with Rosa. Gregory locked the door behind them and pulled open a cabinet hidden behind a bookshelf. Inside were 2 small safes and a locked drawer. "I had the locks changed this morning," he said. "But there's more." He pulled out a leather-bound folder and laid it on the desk. "I went through everything last night. Letters, records. And I found something I didn't expect." Maya leaned closer. "About Marissa?" He nodded and opened the folder. Inside were copies of emails, most old, from years ago. But one, dated just 6 months before her death, caught Maya's eye. It was from Marissa to Gregory. Subject line: "Concerns about household staff." Maya's stomach tightened, but Gregory held up a hand. "Read it," he said. Maya scanned the text. It wasn't what she expected. Marissa had expressed discomfort not with Maya, but with someone else entirely. A man named Daniel Reyes, a former estate manager dismissed for undisclosed reasons. She said she caught him near her personal things, Maya murmured. "He was let go a week after that email," Gregory said. "I barely remember it, honestly. Thought it was just a misunderstanding. But what if it wasn't?" Gregory leaned back. "That's what I've been asking myself. What if he came back, not physically, but through someone else?" Maya looked up. "You think Alicia was working with him?" "It's possible." I checked her references again. They were solid, too solid, almost like they were rehearsed. A silence settled between them. "She wasn't just looking for gossip," Maya said. "She was digging for something that could be sold, something financial, legal." Gregory tapped the folder. "Which brings me to this." He slid a document toward her. It was a notarized form, a proposed amendment to Isabel's trust, dated 3 months ago, unsigned. Maya frowned. "What's this?" "I was advised to restructure Isabel's inheritance, protect it from potential outside claims. The idea was to list someone as a temporary co-guardian, someone trustworthy." Her eyes flicked to the name on the line. "Maya Williams?" "I never signed it," Gregory said quickly. "Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first." She stared at him, stunned. "You were going to make me a legal guardian of your daughter?" "I was considering it," he said. "You're already half of her life. And if something ever happened to me..." Maya stood, pacing. "Gregory, that's huge. That's not a job, it's a life." "I know, and I'm not asking for a decision today. I just want you to know how much I trust you." She turned to him, heart pounding. "This isn't just about trust. It's about the world. The press. The people who will twist this. They'll call it manipulation. They'll say, I planned this, that I seduced you." Gregory stepped forward. "Let them talk. They don't know you. I do. And Isabel does. That's what matters." She exhaled, emotions crashing like waves behind her ribs. "I don't want to be a scandal." "You won't be," he said. "Not with me standing beside you." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Gregory made phone calls. Maya returned to her duties. But the air between them had shifted again, charged now. Not with suspicion, but with possibility. That evening, after Isabel had fallen asleep and the staff had retired, Maya found herself walking the vineyard path alone. The moon hung high above the rows, casting silver shadows on the ground. She heard footsteps behind her. "I thought I might find you here," Gregory's voice called gently. She didn't turn around. "It's where your wife used to walk, right?" "Yes." Then maybe I'm intruding." "No," he said. "You're continuing." She turned then, meeting his eyes. "I'm scared, Gregory. Of being seen, of being misunderstood." "So am I," he admitted. They stood there, surrounded by vines that had seen more seasons than either of them could count. In the quiet, Maya felt something settle inside her. Not peace, not yet. But readiness. Whatever was coming next, she wouldn't face it alone. She wasn't the housemaid anymore. She was something more. Something unspoken. Something undeniable. The following day began with an eerie stillness that didn't belong to the vineyard. It was as if the house itself held its breath, waiting. Maya felt it the moment she stepped into the kitchen, a quiet so deep it drowned out even the ticking of the wall clock. Rosa stood by the stove, stirring oatmeal, her brow furrowed. "What is it?" Maya asked. Rosa glanced up. There was a fire last night, out by the north fence. Maya froze. A fire? How bad? Didn't spread far. Just a few rows of vines. But it wasn't natural. Maya's stomach dropped. "You mean, someone set it?" Rosa nodded grimly. "Sheriff's people are already here. Gregory's talking with them now." Maya stepped back, heart thudding. The vineyard had been peaceful, even with the whispers of scandal. But this was different. This was a warning. She found Gregory in the courtyard with a deputy, an older man with sun-worn skin and a skeptical gaze. Gregory was calm, composed, but Maya could see the tension behind his eyes. "The fence camera caught movement around 1:15 a.m., Gregory said. "No clear face, just a figure, long coat, looked like a man." The deputy scribbled on his notepad. "Any disgruntled employees? Recent firings?" Gregory hesitated just a second too long. "Alicia," Maya said. The deputy looked at her. "And who are you?" "She's family," Gregory answered before Maya could speak. "A trusted member of the household." The deputy nodded, adjusting his hat. "We'll look into it. But off the record, this feels like a message. Someone wanted to scare you. They succeeded," Gregory said quietly. After the deputy left, Maya and Gregory stood together by the charred edge of the vineyard. The blackened ground stretched out like a wound. "I keep asking myself," Gregory said, "what exactly they want." Maya's voice was steady. "They want you uncertain, vulnerable, distracted. And it's working." She turned to him. "Then stop reacting. Start investigating." Gregory raised an eyebrow. "You mean, fight back?" "No," Maya said. "I mean expose the truth before they twist it again." Later that afternoon, Gregory called an emergency meeting in the estate library. Only the most senior staff were invited. Rosa, Javier, the estate's longtime bookkeeper Mr. Ellison, and Maya. "I'm going to ask something difficult of all of you," Gregory began. "Total honesty. No judgment. No consequences today." The room fell silent. "We have a security breach," he continued, "and I believe it's internal. Someone here knows more than they're saying, and I need to know if there's something I missed." The staff looked around at each other, uncertain. Then Mr. Ellison spoke. "I don't know who's leaking things, sir, but there's been irregularities. Minor ones. Bookkeeping entries out of sync. Missing receipts." "Why didn't you report it?" Gregory asked. "I thought they were just clerical errors. Until now." Gregory nodded. "You'll work with the auditor tomorrow. Full transparency." Next was Rosa. Her hands trembled slightly. "There's been tension in the staff quarters. Some of the younger hires talk at night. Gossip, mostly. But a few weeks ago, I heard Alicia mention a name." Everyone leaned in. "Daniel." Maya's breath caught. She said it like she knew him. Said he warned her not to trust the new favorite. "I didn't think much of it then." Gregory's voice was low. "It's more than enough now." When the meeting ended, Gregory and Maya stayed behind. "This Daniel," he said. "I remember him now. Marissa wanted him gone because he had access to documents he shouldn't have. HR fired him quietly. I never heard from him again." "Until now," Maya said. Gregory nodded slowly. "We need to find him." Maya placed a hand on his arm. "We will. But first, you need to protect Isabel." "Esna." He looked at her, eyes narrowing. "You think she's in danger?" "I think you are, and they'll use her to hurt you." That night, security was doubled. The estate's perimeter alarms were tested. Gregory moved Isabel's room to the central hall, where Maya's was nearby. The house became a fortress. As Maya tucked Isabel into bed, the little girl looked up. "Is Daddy scared?" Maya sat beside her. "He's being careful. That's what good parents do." "Are you scared?" Maya paused. "I'm alert, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Isabel reached for her hand. "Then I'm not scared." Maya kissed her forehead, brushing a curl from her face. Downstairs, Gregory watched the security feeds, the fire's remnants replaying in his mind. This wasn't just about scandal anymore. It was war. And someone, somewhere, was counting on him breaking first. But Gregory Langston didn't break. And Maya Williams? She knew how to stand in the fire. 3 days passed with no more fires, no more intrusions, but the calm was heavy, like the sky before a thunderstorm. Gregory, increasingly consumed with security protocols, rarely left his office. His phone became an extension of his hand, and though the staff returned to their routines, every footstep felt measured, every glance weighted with suspicion. Maya noticed the change in Isabel too. The bright, carefree energy that once defined her had dimmed. She clung to Maya's presence, asking questions she didn't know how to answer. "Why are people so angry with Daddy?" Isabel whispered one evening as Maya brushed her hair. "They're not angry with him, sweetheart," Maya replied gently. "Sometimes people want things that don't belong to them, and they think hurting others is the way to get it. Will they try to take me?" Maya paused, her hand stilling in Isabel's curls. "No one is taking you," she said firmly. "Not while I'm here." Ugh. Later that night, Maya stepped onto the back porch, wrapped in a shawl against the early autumn chill. She needed air, clarity, and maybe silence just for a moment. But as she approached the edge of the vineyard, she saw movement. A figure stood just beyond the fence line. Not on the property, but close, too close. "Hey!" she called out, voice sharper than she expected. The figure turned but didn't move. Male, medium build, a baseball cap pulled low. In the pale moonlight, she caught the glint of something metallic in his hand, maybe a flashlight, maybe something else. She reached into her pocket for her phone, dialing Gregory. "Someone's watching the house," she said the moment he answered. "Where?" "South fence, past the vineyard gate. I'm on my way." Within minutes, Gregory and Javier came jogging across the lawn, both carrying flashlights. By the time they reached Maya, the figure was gone. Javier hopped the fence, scanning the perimeter. "Tracks," he called out. "Fresh. He was standing here less than a minute ago." Gregory knelt, inspecting the crushed grass. His face hardened. "He wanted us to see him." Maya crossed her arms tightly. "So now they're taunting us. They want to unsettle us," Gregory muttered. "But we're not giving them that." Back inside, they reviewed the security footage, but the angle was obscured by trees. No clear shot, no face, only the same silhouette. "That's not a thief," Gregory said. "That's a message." The next morning, Maya found a manila envelope taped to the mailbox at the end of the estate's long private drive. No stamp, no return address. Inside, 6 black and white photographs, all of Isabel, playing in the garden, walking to the car, sitting on the porch with Maya, taken from a distance. Maya's hands trembled as she handed the envelope to Gregory. His jaw clenched as he flipped through the photos. "They've been watching her." "This is a threat," Maya said. "They're letting you know they can get close." Gregory slammed the envelope down. "I'm done waiting. We're taking this to the police." That afternoon, Detective Laura Carmichael arrived. Early 40s, composed, sharp-eyed. She listened carefully as they explained everything: Alicia's betrayal, Daniel Reyes's history, the fire, the photos. "Looks like someone wants you rattled," she said finally. "They're building a slow siege." What do you mean?" Gregory asked. "They're not just after money or revenge. They want to ruin your credibility, discredit your household, maybe even dismantle your legacy. You're not just a man with assets, Mr. Langston. You're a symbol of control, wealth, influence. They want to crack that open." "And Maya?" he asked. "She's the piece they didn't plan for," the detective replied. "She's unpredictable. They see her as a threat." Maya folded her arms. "Because I won't back down." "My." "Exactly." Detective Carmichael stood. "I'll increase patrols. And I'll dig into Daniel Reyes's connections. But you should prepare for this to get personal. They're not playing fair." After she left, Maya sat quietly in Gregory's study. "They're watching a child," she said. "Taking photos. That's beyond cruel." Gregory looked at her, his expression raw. "I keep thinking about Marissa. What she'd say, what she'd do." Maya leaned forward. "She'd protect her daughter, and so will we." That evening, Gregory made a decision. "I want you and Isabel to leave," he said. Maya looked up, startled. "Leave? Just for a while. Take her somewhere safe. Somewhere far." "No," Maya said immediately. "That's exactly what they want. To scatter us. This isn't about pride, Maya. It's about her safety." "And what about yours?" I'll be fine. You won't, she said, standing. Not without her. Not without someone who sees the cracks before they break. Their eyes locked. You don't get to push me out, she said. Not now. Not when we're finally standing together. Gregory exhaled. I'm just trying to keep you both safe. Then let me help you fight. Silence stretched between them. Finally, he nodded. All right, he said. Together. Outside, the wind picked up, scattering golden leaves across the drive. The enemy was still in the shadows, but Maya and Gregory weren't hiding anymore. They were preparing. 2 days after the photos arrived, Maya sat alone in the dusty back room of the estate's storage wing, a space rarely visited since Marissa's passing. Stacks of old files, furniture draped in white cloths, and a lingering smell of cedar and age surrounded her. She sifted through boxes of archived documents, guided by a hunch and something Gregory had said the night before. Marissa kept everything, he'd muttered. Every letter, every receipt. She believed someday the truth would matter. Now, Maya combed through the paper trail Marissa had left behind. She wasn't even sure what she was looking for. Proof of a link between Daniel Reyes and Alicia? Evidence of blackmail? Or maybe something more personal, some key Marissa had left that might explain the war now brewing around them. She opened a slim leather binder labeled Estate Manager Reports, 2016. Inside were timesheets, inventory logs, and at the very back a reprimand notice. Name, Daniel Reyes. Infraction, unauthorized access to private office. Witness, Marissa Langston. There it was, a warning issued 2 months before his dismissal. But it wasn't the form that caught her attention, it was the folded sheet clipped to it. A handwritten note from Marissa. Something is wrong. He knows too much. I've seen the way he looks at Isabel. He's not just greedy. He's watching. Maya's skin prickled. She snapped a photo of the note with her phone and rushed back to the main house. Gregory was in the garden with Detective Carmichael, discussing security angles. He looked up as she approached, her expression urgent. I found something, she said, holding out the phone. He read the note silently, his brow furrowing. Carmichael leaned in. This confirms she was afraid of him, Maya said. And not just for you, she feared for Isabel. Carmichael nodded. This changes things. We can open a formal file on Daniel Reyes, maybe even request surveillance warrants. Gregory looked stunned. She never told me. Not one word. She protected you, Maya said gently. But now it's our turn. The detective excused herself to begin the paperwork. Gregory remained seated on the bench, still gripping the phone. She knew, he whispered. She saw the threat before any of us did. That's what mothers do, Maya said. And now, you have to finish what she started. Later that night, after Isabel had gone to sleep, Maya joined Gregory in his study again. The room had become their war room maps, photos, documents scattered across the table. Gregory poured 2 cups of tea instead of scotch. I've been thinking, he said, sliding a folder toward her. About the trust amendment. Maya hesitated. Gregory, we don't have to. I'm not asking you to sign anything tonight, he interrupted. But I want you to read it, understand what it means. Because if something happens to me, she met his gaze, firm, then we'll handle it, together. He gave a small smile. You know, Marissa once said I needed someone to keep me grounded. She thought it would be her. She was that, Maya said. And now you have Isabel. You have both of us. A knock on the study door broke the moment. Javier stepped in, holding a cell phone. It's for you, Mr. Langston. Caller said it's urgent. Gregory took the phone, raising a brow. Hello? There was a pause. Then his face changed, hardened, narrowed. What do you want? He said, voice cold. Maya leaned forward. Where did you get that number? Gregory's voice dropped. Don't say her name again. He listened, the color draining from his face. Then he hung up. They know Marissa wrote that note, he said quietly. And they know we found it. Maya felt her breath catch. How? I don't know, Gregory whispered. But they're watching more than we realized. They changed all digital access codes that night. Shut down unused phone lines. Increased camera surveillance on the north and south gates. The estate became a fortress not of wealth, but of desperation. But the war wasn't only physical, it was psychological. A day later, a large envelope arrived via private courier. No return address. Inside were photos more recent this time, of Maya, grocery shopping, at the bus stop, holding Isabel's hand near the playground. Alongside the photos, a typed note. She replaced Marissa. What makes you think we won't replace her? Gregory handed it to Maya with a trembling hand. They're targeting you now. Maya held the photos tightly, jaw clenched. Let them watch. This isn't a game anymore. It never was. She locked eyes with him, resolute. Then let's show them what happens when they pick the wrong woman to threaten. Gregory didn't respond for a long moment. Then he nodded. We fight. Not with fury, but with truth, and light, and the kind of legacy Marissa had believed in. One rooted in love, not silence, in defiance, not fear. The storm had come. Now it was time to hold the line. Morning came veiled in fog, the vineyard cloaked in a thick gray hush. Maya walked the estate's central path with a mug of black coffee in hand, her eyes tracing the silhouettes of the roses that lined the garden. They were Marissa's favorite. Even now, their fragrance whispered something sacred, like a voice buried in petals. She paused near the central trellis, the place where Marissa once held tea with Isabel, long before Maya joined the household. Something glinted in the soil. She crouched down and brushed the earth aside. A small device, no bigger than a lighter, tucked among the roots. Her heart jumped. A tracker, or worse, a microphone. Maya sprang to her feet and rushed back to the house. Gregory was already in the study, looking over blueprints of the estate. His eyes snapped up when she entered. I found something, she said, placing the device on the desk. Gregory examined it, then swore under his breath. They're listening. That's how they knew about the note. He immediately called Detective Carmichael, who promised to send a forensic technician. But the weight of the discovery sank into the room like lead. Marissa's rose garden, Maya murmured. They put this in the one place you'd never think to check, where love used to live. Gregory sat down heavily. This isn't just blackmail anymore. They're hunting us in our memories. Maya's voice sharpened. Then we use those memories to trap them. He looked up. What are you suggesting? She leaned forward. Let's feed them a lie, something they'll act on. Gregory frowned. You want to bait them? Yes. Give them something too tempting to ignore, but false. Something we can control. He thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. A transfer of Isabel's trust, a decoy document. We leak it. Let them come for it. And when they do, Maya said, we'll be waiting. The plan took shape quickly. With Detective Carmichael's help, they created a believable but entirely fake set of legal documents, indicating a massive financial transfer into a private offshore account, an account supposedly tied to Maya as a new co-trustee of Isabel's estate. They left just enough breadcrumbs in the estate's digital security system for someone snooping to find. 3 nights later, the bait was taken. At 2:43 a.m., the motion detectors near the wine cellar door triggered. Maya and Gregory, both dressed in dark clothing, watched from a monitor in the security room as a masked figure slipped inside the house. Wait, Maya whispered, placing a hand on Gregory's arm. We want them to get to the study. The figure moved with precision, bypassing alarms, gliding past cameras that had been redirected just slightly off angle. But Maya had set the one in the study to record silently in night vision. They watched as the intruder moved to the desk, pulled out the bottom drawer, and took the decoy file. Gregory picked up the phone and dialed the sheriff's direct line. Now, within minutes, 2 unmarked vehicles rolled through the back gate. Officers surrounded the house, but the intruder was already on the move, file in hand, darting out the west entrance. What he didn't know what Maya had planned was that she'd locked that exit from the outside and rerouted the pathway to an enclosed greenhouse. He entered the glass house and the doors locked behind him with a hydraulic hiss. Trapped. Lights blazed on. Gregory and Maya stood at the entrance as the man whirled around, yanking at the handles. Don't bother, Maya said, her voice calm. That glass is reinforced. It's over. The man ripped off his mask. Daniel Reyes. Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. She hadn't been sure. Not completely. But seeing him now older, thinner, desperate confirmed every buried suspicion. I should have guessed, Gregory said bitterly. You never went far, did you? Daniel sneered. You took everything from me. You took it from yourself, Gregory snapped. You were trusted, paid well, And you used it to dig into our private lives. Daniel's eyes narrowed at Maya. She doesn't belong here. You think she's family? You think Marissa would have wanted this? Maya stepped forward. Marissa trusted me more than she ever trusted you. And I'd die before I let you touch that child. Daniel laughed coldly. You think you're a mother? You're the help. Maya didn't blink. And yet here I am, protecting this family while you're the one caught like a rat in a trap. The police took him minutes later. The documents recovered, fingerprints matched, charges stacked. Daniel didn't resist. He only stared at Maya with eyes full of hatred as he was led away. By dawn, the estate was quiet again. In the early light, Gregory and Maya walked back through the rose garden. You saved us, he said softly. No, she replied. Marissa saved us. With that note, I just listened. They stood beneath the trellis, where the soil had once held secrets. Now, it held justice. Do you think it's over? Gregory asked. Not over, Maya said, but we've turned the tide. She reached down and replanted the tracker in the dirt, not because it worked anymore, but as a reminder of the cost of silence and the power of a woman who wouldn't be silenced. The morning after Daniel's arrest, the estate pulsed with a new kind of quiet, not one of fear, but of reflection. For the first time in weeks, the staff moved without glancing over their shoulders. Isabel played in the garden with her sketch pad, coloring the roses in soft pink and red. Inside, Gregory stood in front of the large mirror in Marissa's old dressing room. The room had remained untouched since her passing, still filled with the scent of her perfume, her scarves hanging like whispers along the armoire doors. Maya entered silently behind him. I haven't stepped in here since the funeral, he said without turning. I can wait outside, she offered. Number stay. He opened the vanity drawer slowly. Inside were old brushes, a small bottle of lavender oil, and a sealed envelope. The sight of it froze him. His fingers hovered above the parchment like it was too sacred to touch. It's addressed to you, Maya said gently. He picked it up, hand trembling, written in Marissa's elegant hand, to be opened when the truth becomes too heavy to carry alone. He sat on the edge of the chaise and opened it. Maya moved to the far wall, giving him space. Gregory read silently for a few minutes. His face softened, then his eyes filled. She knew, he whispered. She always knew. Maya stepped closer. What does it say? Gregory handed her the letter with care, like passing a child. My dearest Gregory, if you're reading this, it means the world has tilted under your feet, and I am no longer here to steady it. I've always known your heart, your brilliance, your flaws, your loyalty, but I've also known that you see only what you want to believe. There is a darkness around us, Gregory, not within our family, but circling it. Daniel is part of it, but he's not alone. I fear we've been watched, catalogued, and calculated for years. If anything happens to me, look to the roses. That's where I've hidden what matters most. And trust Maya, I see what you cannot. She is your compass when the sky goes black. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She left it for you, for us. Gregory nodded, folding the letter with reverence. She trusted you even when I was blind. He stood and looked in the mirror again. I've been a coward, Maya. Afraid to grieve. Afraid to love again. We grieve by living, Maya said. And by choosing not to live in fear. Later that afternoon, Detective Carmichael arrived with an update. Daniel's not talking, she said. But we traced a payment made to him 6 months ago from a shell corporation based in Delaware. There's a name attached to the firm, someone you're not going to like. Gregory raised an eyebrow. Who? Russell Whitaker. Maya's breath caught. The board member? Carmichael nodded. Former. Marissa pushed to remove him after an internal ethics investigation. He always blamed her for ruining his career. Gregory's voice darkened. So he hired Daniel to sabotage me. Destroy the estate. Strip Isabel's trust. And your credibility, Carmichael said. He didn't care how many people got hurt. We need proof, Maya said. Solid proof. Before he runs. You might get lucky, Carmichael said. Daniel had 2 burner phones. Forensics is working on decrypting them. If there's a connection, we'll find it. That night, Maya sat with Isabel in the reading room. The girl nestled beside her with a fairy tale book on her lap. Did Daddy catch the bad man? Isabel asked. Yes, Maya said. And there won't be any more bad people coming here. Do you miss Mommy? She asked suddenly. Maya swallowed. Every day. Isabel leaned her head against Maya's shoulder. Me too, but I think Mommy would like you. I hope so, Maya whispered. Across the estate, Gregory stood outside the wine cellar, speaking on the phone with his legal counsel. His voice was low, decisive. We're pressing charges, and I want a full audit of Whitaker's investments. Every cent. He ended the call and turned toward the vineyard, where the stars were beginning to break through the dusk. The past had tried to unravel them, but the future was still theirs to claim. Later that night, Gregory joined Maya on the back porch. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind in the trees. I've been thinking about Marissa's last line, he said. Trust Maya, she is your compass. Maya looked at him, her eyes steady. I don't know where we're going, he continued, but I want you beside me. Not as staff, not as someone in the shadows. I want you visible, equal, family. Maya's breath caught. I can't promise a perfect path, Gregory added, but I can promise you'll never walk it alone. She nodded slowly. Then we walk it forward. As the wind danced through the rose garden, Maya reached for his hand. And this time, Gregory didn't hesitate. Whatever battles lay ahead, they were ready. Side by side, the following Monday morning, Gregory stood in front of the towering glass entrance of Langston Enterprises headquarters in downtown San Francisco. The building loomed with polished indifference, its marble lobby buzzing with employees who glanced, whispered, and quickly looked away. Rumors had spread like wildfire. The re-emergence of Daniel Reyes, whispers of sabotage, and an impending storm in the boardroom. But Gregory wasn't walking in alone. Maya, dressed in a sharply tailored navy suit and low heels, stepped beside him, clipboard in hand. Her presence was no longer that of an employee. She walked like someone with authority, someone with purpose, and everyone noticed. Are you sure about this? She asked as they entered the elevator. Gregory gave a tight nod. It's time we finish what Marissa started. The elevator dinged open onto the executive floor. Waiting by the boardroom was Alicia, her posture stiff, face unreadable. Gone was the smug air she once wore like perfume. Now, she simply looked tired and exposed. You're not supposed to be here, she said to Maya, her tone clipped. Maya smiled, calm as ever. You're in no position to dictate terms. Inside, the full board had gathered 12 seats, each filled with men and women in expensive suits, expressions ranging from curious to concerned. Russell Whitaker sat at the far end, his silver hair gleaming under the recessed lighting, lips curled into a polite, poisonous smile. Gregory walked to the head of the table and placed a thick folder on the table. Before we begin the scheduled review of the trust portfolio, he said, there's a more pressing matter. He motioned to Detective Carmichael, who entered the room with 2 plainclothes officers. She placed a document in front of each board member. Ladies and gentlemen, these are preliminary findings from an active criminal investigation. You'll see communications between Daniel Reyes and a shell company traced to Russell Whitaker. Payments, instructions, even GPS locations matching the arson site near my vineyard. Murmurs erupted. Russell raised his hand, still smiling. This is absurd. Anyone can create phony documents. You're right, Carmichael interrupted, which is why we've had them authenticated by a federal forensic team. The IP addresses linked to your private home network. The bank accounts connect to a business in your wife's name. It's over, Mr. Whitaker. Russell's smile faltered. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, blackmail, and endangerment of a minor, Carmichael said calmly. Please stand. The room fell into stunned silence as the officers stepped forward and cuffed Russell without resistance. As they led him away, he turned back toward Gregory. This company will bleed without me. Gregory didn't flinch. Then let it bleed and heal stronger. Once the doors closed behind them, a board member spoke up. Gregory, why weren't we informed earlier? Because I needed proof, and I needed to ensure no one else was compromised. He turned to Maya. This is Maya Williams. She's been instrumental in uncovering the truth, protecting my daughter, and preserving this company's legacy. I'm appointing her as special advisor to the chair, effective immediately. Some eyebrows lifted, but no one objected. The room understood power, and Maya wore it without apology. After the meeting, Gregory and Maya returned to the estate. The air smelled of lavender and soil, a welcome contrast to the sterility of the boardroom. As they stepped out of the car, Javier met them at the steps. "There's someone here to see you," he said. "Who?" Gregory asked. "Marissa's sister. Came all the way from Chicago." Maya's eyes widened. "Eleanor?" They found Eleanor Langston seated on the patio, holding a photo of Marissa and Isabel. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her spine remained straight, a woman of grace, even in grief. "I should have come sooner," Eleanor said, standing. "But I was scared, angry. At you, Gregory. At her. At everything." Gregory nodded. "You had every right." She turned to Maya. "You're the one they've been whispering about. The one Marissa called her shadow angel." Maya smiled softly. "I just tried to keep her promise alive." Eleanor looked at her long and hard, then nodded. She'd be proud. They spent the afternoon walking the vineyard, talking of old memories and new beginnings. Eleanor shared stories of Marissa's childhood, her fierce loyalty, her belief that justice wasn't a concept, it was a daily choice. As the sun dipped low, Eleanor stood by the rose trellis and touched one of the blooms gently. "She loved this place more than anything," she said. Maya stood beside her. "Then we'll keep it safe." That night, after Isabel went to bed, Gregory and Maya sat by the fire. "We're not done," he said quietly. "There will be more waves. The press, the fallout." "I know," Maya replied. "But we've built something stronger than walls." He reached for her hand. "Family?" She squeezed his fingers. "Always." Outside, under a sky full of stars, the vineyard breathed freely once more, and the ghosts of betrayal had finally begun to fade. By Friday morning, the front gates of the Langston estate were lined with black SUVs, press vans, and flashing cameras. News had broken overnight Russell Whitaker's arrest, his confession of orchestrating the plot against the Langstons, and the shocking involvement of former staff members. Journalists camped outside the estate, trying to capture the first image of Gregory Langston, his daughter, or the mysterious housekeeper turned heroine, Maya Williams. Inside, Gregory stood by the living room window, watching the chaos unfold just beyond the wrought iron gates. "They smell blood and redemption," he said. "They don't even care which one they get." Maya entered with a pot of coffee and 2 mugs. "You knew this would happen." "I did, but I never thought it would feel like this." "Like what?" "Like standing naked in the middle of Times Square with everyone pointing and guessing your sins." Maya chuckled softly. "You'll survive it." He took a mug and turned toward her. "They want a story. They want to know who you are, why you stayed, why you fought. You ready for that?" She sipped her coffee. "They won't get the story they expect." Hours later, the family's PR advisor arrived and prepped them for the media appearance Gregory had agreed to. A formal statement followed by a brief, moderated Q&A. It would be held at the foot of the estate's rose garden, Marissa's sanctuary, now symbolic of resilience. Gregory was polished in a charcoal suit, but Maya wore no makeup, just a navy blouse and slacks. Simple, honest, she insisted. As they stepped into the makeshift press zone, the cameras buzzed to life. Dozens of lenses trained on them like hunting dogs, but Maya didn't flinch. Beside her, Gregory offered a nod to the moderator, a veteran news anchor named Maria Quinn. "Mr. Langston, Miss Williams," Maria began, "thank you for addressing the public. There's been much speculation. Could you walk us through what happened?" Gregory cleared his throat. "Over the last few months, individuals we once trusted betrayed that trust. What began as a quiet attack on our family's finances evolved into something far more dangerous, an attempt to divide, to destroy our legacy, and to place my daughter's life in jeopardy. But thanks to the actions of one extraordinary woman, Maya Williams, my daughter is safe, and the truth has found daylight." Maya looked at the crowd, then directly into the cameras. "I didn't plan to be in the spotlight," she said. "I was hired to serve, not speak. But when I saw a child in danger and a family under attack, silence wasn't an option. Marissa Langston saw me not as help, but as a human being. She believed in my voice before I ever found it myself. This wasn't about heroism, it was about honoring her trust." A reporter shouted. "Why didn't you go to the police sooner?" "We did," Maya replied calmly. "But justice isn't always swift. Sometimes, you have to lay your own bricks on the path, one truth at a time." Another voice called out, Do you have a message for those who underestimated you? Maya paused, then smiled gently. I don't blame them. People underestimate what they refuse to see. The conference ended with a thunder of camera clicks, but neither Maya nor Gregory flinched. They returned to the house to find Javier waiting by the foyer. Letter came for you, he said, handing Maya a heavy envelope. No return address, just her name. Inside was a simple note, handwritten on thick ivory paper. Maya, you don't know me, but I watched everything unfold, and I want to thank you. My sister worked for the Langstons 15 years ago. She was fired without reason. No one believed her when she said she was mistreated. You made people look again. You made people see us. CL. Maya folded the letter and clutched it to her chest. A quiet ache welled up in her throat. She didn't know CL, but she knew the story. Variations of it filled the lives of women like her women who disappeared into the margins of other people's greatness. Gregory watched her from the staircase. You okay? Yes, she whispered. Better than okay. That evening, Gregory held a private gathering with close friends, a few board members, and key staff. Eleanor made a toast. To Maya, she said, who stood when others would have run, who healed when others hid, and who reminded us that family isn't born. Sometimes, it's chosen. Everyone raised a glass, but Maya, seated beside Isabel, leaned close to the little girl and whispered, It's not over yet, you know. Isabel nodded solemnly. Will the bad people come back? Some will, Maya said honestly. But this time, we won't be afraid. Outside, the vineyard swayed in the wind. Inside, the family held together by grief, trust, and fire had become something new. And Maya, no longer just a housekeeper, was at its very heart. The final rays of the sun stretched long across the Langston vineyard, bathing the estate in a warm golden hush. The vines, lush and heavy with fruit, swayed gently in the August breeze, whispering through the land like a hymn of endurance. It had been exactly 1 month since the press conference. 1 month since Maya Williams became a name people spoke of with reverence. And yet, inside the walls of the estate, life had softened again into something close to normal. Maya stood in the kitchen, her hands deep in flour, rolling out pie crust the way Marissa once taught her. The smell of cinnamon and ripe apples filled the room, and the quiet hum of an old Motown record played on the phonograph in the corner. Isabel sat at the counter, coloring with intense focus, her tongue poking out as she filled the page. Miss Maya, Isabel said without looking up, do you think my mom can see us from heaven? Maya paused, the rolling pin still in her hand. I think she never stopped watching. The little girl nodded, seemingly satisfied. She'd like that I'm drawing her garden. She'd love that, Maya said, pressing the edges of the crust. Gregory entered quietly from the side hall, sleeves rolled to his elbows, a faint smile on his face. He leaned against the doorframe for a moment, watching the two of them, two souls who, despite the storm, had found each other. He cleared his throat softly. Dinner's ready in the garden. Maya wiped her hands, and together they stepped outside into the golden hour. A long wooden table had been set beneath the trellis. Eleanor was already seated, pouring glasses of iced tea. Javier placed the last dish, grilled salmon with lemon butter, down and gave Maya a proud nod. The staff had insisted on preparing the meal as a celebration, not of a victory, but of survival, of chosen family. As they ate, stories flowed like wine, memories of Marissa, of the vineyard's early days, of mistakes made and forgiven. Laughter came easier now, no longer trapped behind tension. Midway through dessert, Gregory stood and raised his glass. I want to say something, he said, his voice steady but rich with meaning. I've spent most of my life believing that power came from control over money, legacy, perception. But these past months have shown me something different, that true strength lives in love, in truth, in standing when others fall. He turned to Maya. You came into our lives to care for our home. Instead, you rebuilt it. Not with hammers, but with courage. Not with blood, but with honor. And for that, Maya, you will always have a place here, not as staff, but as family. Maya stood slowly, unsure of what to say. The table waited, hushed and expectant. I didn't do any of this alone, she said. I did it for Isabel, for Marissa, for every woman who's been dismissed, and every child who deserves to feel safe. But mostly, I did it because it was right. And doing what's right shouldn't make you exceptional. It should make you human. Applause followed. Not loud, but full, like the vineyard itself was clapping with gratitude. As the sun dipped below the hills, casting the final amber light across the rows of grapes, Maya walked the path behind the trellis alone. There, nestled beneath the oldest rose bush, she placed a small wooden box. Inside were the remnants of the last few months' copies of the letters, the note from Marissa, a pressed flower Isabel had given her on the night the threats had stopped. She buried it gently, patting the earth with reverent hands. Not to forget, but to remember on her own terms. When she stood, Gregory was there. "She would have been proud of you," he said. Maya looked at him, eyes soft. "She's the reason I found my voice," he nodded. "And, now that you have it, what will you do next?" She exhaled, looking out across the hills. "I'm not sure," she said. "Maybe start something. A center. For women like me. For girls like Isabel to grow up believing they never need to shrink to be safe." Gregory smiled. "If you do, I'll fund it." She smiled back. "I thought you might say that." They walked back in silence, side by side. That night, after Isabel had gone to bed, Maya sat on the porch alone, wrapped in one of Marissa's old shawls. The vineyard glowed under the moonlight, peaceful, sacred. A life once confined to shadows had bloomed into something radiant. And Maya Williams, once overlooked, now stood at the center of her own story, whole, unafraid, and unforgettable.